Hey everybody, my name's Alicia and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some of my most anticipated books for 2021. There are so many amazing and cool books coming out this year that I'm so excited to read and I can't wait to jump into. I've tried to narrow down my list to about, I think, 12 books that I'm super excited about, but with all the books that are coming out, it was really hard, but here they are. So number one on this list is a book that is already pretty popular. I know a lot of people are talking about it, and that is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. So this is a book that is a YA standalone fantasy, and just the whole premise of it makes it sound so cool, and I really just can't wait to get into it. So basically, this is a book that is about, not about, but it's like inspired by Greek mythology and Greek gods and has like all those cool things in it. And I haven't really read a lot of like great Greek story retellings, or not even retellings, just stories about, Greek mythology. Percy Jackson is obviously one of the best things out there in terms of Greek mythology stories. So yeah, I love that, and I have like really high expectations for this book, and I know a lot of people have already read it and it's a huge hit for a lot of people, so I'm hoping I'm gonna love it as well. But basically this story is about as punishment for a past rebellion, every 7 years 9 Greek gods have to come down to earth and walk amongst like humans as mortals. And basically every 7 years this kind of hunt takes place where just mere mortals are able to hunt these 9 Greek gods, and if they kill one of them, they basically become immortal and take the place of the Greek god. And so this story follows a girl named Lore who has stayed away from the hunt and what happens during the hunt because a rival group years past had killed her family during this hunt, until a long lost friend of hers shows up again, and the Greek goddess Athena comes looking for her help. And so she basically goes back into dealing with the hunt and the Greek gods and everything, and has to maybe find a way to get revenge for her family and help these people that have come to her. And so yeah, just that whole kind of premise just sounds so interesting and so intriguing, and I'm so excited to see what happens in terms of the plot, in terms of the characters. Athena is one of my favorite Greek gods, so yeah, it's gonna be super cool and I can't wait for this one. Now, next on my list is another book that I am super excited for, and that is called An Emotion of Great Delight by Tara Mafi. And if you haven't read her previous book called A Very Large Expanse of Sea, I recently read it actually, and it's become one of my favorite books ever, I think. Like, it's just so beautiful, so beautifully written. The story was incredible. And so I'm so excited that Tara Mafi's coming out with this book, because it does sound very similar to the last book, but it definitely like takes a whole new, it basically is just bringing another story to light about a Muslim American, like in a Muslim American experience of a young girl, a hijabi girl, and it takes place I believe in 2003, so it's like recently after the 9/11 events, and it's during the time that America was declaring war on Iraq. So it's a time of like a lot of discrimination, racism, Islamophobia, and it basically is telling the story of a young Muslim girl and how she's kind of navigating through life in these trying times, dealing with all these like horrible, people and emotions and hatred and prejudices, and just trying to live her life and like come into who she is, find her identity in like this world where she, people perceive her as something, and she is something else, and like, dealing with all of that. And yeah, like I said, I loved A Very Large Expanse of Sea. I think her writing and like it was just a realistic representation of what, a young Muslim girl would experience in that time. At least it felt that way. And not even in that time, honestly, like just in any time, and even the times that we're living in today with so many people who have like so much hatred and so many biases and prejudices, and kind of dealing with that as you come into your own. And it definitely was like very relatable, and not only that in terms of the content of the story, but just in terms of the characters and who they were. So I'm very, very excited about this one. So the next book is another one that I know a lot of people are super excited about. I've seen it on a lot of like most anticipated lists and like a lot of people talking about it. And that is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. And so this is a YA fantasy that just has, it honestly sounds like such a unique plot and like story. And honestly, like, I'm just so excited to see how it all unfolds and like what it's actually about and everything. But basically it's a fantasy world where girls must go through this kind of coming of age ritual ceremony of it's called a ritual of purity. And so basically they're kind of tested to see if their blood runs red, and that kind of like welcomes them into the community and into the village. And so this story is about Decca, who is already kind of perceived as different. She has this uncanny intuition, and yeah, I guess people just think she's really different than everyone else. And so when it comes time for her ceremony, she is hoping that she bleeds red, and she's not sure. But then during the ceremony, she actually bleeds gold. And so bleeding gold is actually the color of impurity. And so right away, it's clear that she is different. There is something wrong with her, or that's what everyone believes. And so basically, if this happens, you kind of are killed, I guess, or you're shunned from the community. And so Decca is very, wary of this. But then suddenly a woman comes into her life and kind of offers her this proposition. So either she can stay in her village and kind of just accept what comes for her, or she's invited to come fight for the emperor in this army of girls who are just like her. And they're called the Alakai Near Mortals, who all have these kind of rare gifts, and all of their blood is gold. And so Decca decides to leave kind of the only life she's ever known and go fight for this army, mostly because it kind of gives her a sense of belonging and acceptance for once in her life. And so yeah, like it's about like this whole kind of world and the magic and whatever's going to happen with her when she goes into this army. And it just sounds like such a like fun, action-packed, fast-paced story, and I am so excited to read it. I know that it kind of says that fans of Children and Blood and Bone, as well as Black Panther, should be also very excited about this book. And I haven't read Children of Blood and Bone yet, but of course I love Black Panther. So yeah, this is just, it sounds really cool. I'm really excited, and I hope it's great. Next on my list is a book called Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. This is one of the ones that it's on like the top of my list. I'm very excited about it. It is a Peter Pan retelling, which just sounds so cool. And for those of you who don't know, Aiden Thomas wrote Cemetery Boys, and I know a lot of people love that. I haven't read it yet, but I really want to get to that one as well. But basically the story is following Wendy. And so when children start going missing, the town, in a small town, so the people come to Wendy because 5 years ago, Wendy and two of her brothers also went missing, but Wendy was found or like came back somehow. And her brothers are still missing. And so it's a lot of like confusion and questions in this small town, what's going on. And then Wendy kind of crosses paths suddenly with Peter, who she thought actually only lived in her kind of stories. And so she didn't know that he was like a real person. And Peter tells her that they have to find these kids before it's too late. And, something really bad is happening and coming. And so Wendy basically must confront her fears and go back into the woods where she was once went missing and her brothers went missing, and kind of come to terms with everything and deal with all of that again. And of course, I think many people have read or watched Peter Pan, and this sounds like such a cool and different take on the whole story. And I think it's going to be awesome, so I can't wait for this one as well. So this next story is another one that I've heard a little about, and a lot of people sound really excited about it as well. And that is Ace of Spades by Farida Abike-Iyamidi. I believe that's how you pronounce it. But this is a YA contemporary thriller, and it's, I believe, like a bit of a dark academia, and it's like presented as a Get Out meets Gossip Girl story, and just that in and of itself just sounds really, really cool. So I definitely can't wait to get my hands on this one. But basically, it is about two students at this private academy that get the chance to be the senior class prefects. And this is a huge honor, and they're very excited about it and happy about it. And they kind of feel like their year is off to a great start until someone who goes by the name of Aces, I believe, starts sending anonymous texts about like different secrets and about these two students, and kind of is revealing things that like people shouldn't know about. And so now suddenly their carefully planned futures are threatened, and a lot is going on. And so I definitely see where the Gossip Girl aspect comes in. I want to know where the Get Out stuff is coming from, because I feel like that could go a lot of ways. But this story just sounds so fun, so cool. And I think it's gonna be, I hope, the mystery aspect of it is pretty like fun and not too basic, but we'll see. I have a lot of high expectations for this one. So this next one is another one that I'm very excited about. It just sounds really different and really intriguing, and that is the Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. And so this is an adult fantasy that takes place in India, and yeah, like I feel like you don't really get fantasy novels that are, with brown characters or brown settings. So that's really going to be very interesting, and I'm looking forward to that. But basically, this story is about a girl named Melanie who has been imprisoned by her brother, who kind of deceitfully took the throne, and she's been imprisoned in this kind of cliffside temple that used to have a lot of like sacred, powerful kind of magic, but now it's just ruins. And so she's been imprisoned there. She's isolated, kept alone, but every night these kind of anonymous maidservants come to her like cliffside chambers to clean it up, and one of them is named Priya. And so she kind of is just living her life, minding her own business, doing this work, as long as she kind of is able to keep her secret, which is that she actually has magic and has these kind of dangerous powers. And so, yeah, she's just trying to stay, like she doesn't want people to know about that, until Melanie sees her, I think, one night, like using her powers, or in some way finds out that she has magic. And so now their lives kind of become intertwined and like tangled up, and yeah, a lot going on there. But yeah, the whole premise, the setting, everything about that just sounds so cool. This is also a female romance, so that'll be really interesting. I don't think you see a lot of that either with like brown characters and representation, so that's amazing. And I'm really looking forward to this one as well. So this next story I have heard a little bit about here and there talked about, and I know some people are really excited about it, but cannot wait for this one. It's called The Chosen and the Beautiful, and it's by Nevo, I believe her name is, and it's an adult fantasy, but it's a Great Gatsby retelling. And the coolest part that I've literally never seen before is that it has an Asian American queer main character in a Great Gatsby kind of retelling. So this is just, I know it's going to be amazing. I cannot wait for it. Yeah, it just sounds so cool. But it's basically about Jordan Baker, who grows up in an affluent kind of social circles. She is pretty rich, a socialite, but she's also adopted. She's Vietnamese and she's queer. So that kind of makes her a little, well, very different than other people at the time. And people kind of see her as this exotic kind of attraction. And so this story follows her as she finds new wonders and opens doors for herself, and doors that kind of were previously locked for her because of her race and her sexuality and, you know, all of those things. And there is magic and mystery involved, but I'm not sure in what aspects or how it kind of features, but it just sounds amazing. The next book on this list is called Finlay Donovan is Killing It by El Casamino. And this one is a adult mystery, and it just sounds super fun, and I think it's going to be a really fun and interesting read. So it's basically about this wronged wife who overhears Finlay Donovan talking to, I believe, like her publicist or something about her new book, because she's a romance suspense novelist. And so this lady who overhears her name's Patricia, and she believes that Finlay is a killer for hire, and so she offers Finlay $50,000 to kill her husband, who I believe like cheated on her or something. And so Finlay really needs this money because she's going through a custody agreement with her ex, and so she agrees to it. And she doesn't intend to actually kill this man, but she witnesses him trying to drug a woman in a bar, and because of that, it's like a kind of domino effect, and she gets pulled into this mystery, and there's like Russian gangsters involved, angry wives, and she also, it seems to be having a little romance with this attractive police officer. And so yeah, just all those different aspects. It sounds like it's going to be a really interesting story when it's all put together, and I absolutely can't wait to read this one. Like I said, it sounds like it's going to be super fun, super interesting, and the mystery aspect, you know, the romance, all of that. So I can't wait for this one. So the next book on my list is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. And this one too is one that is a bit different. It's a bit different for like my reading taste as well, I think, but it sounds really cool and interesting. And it's basically this adult historical fiction, but it also has fantasy elements, and it's a mystery. So all of those kind of genres put together, it sounds like it's going to make for an amazing book. And it's about this female apothecary which secretly dispenses poisons to liberate women from the men who have wronged them. And so it involves 3 different women from also different time periods, and how they kind of fall into these events, I guess, and how their kind of stories intertwine. But it takes place in 1791. This lady named Nella is awaiting her newest customer to take one of these potions, or whatever they are, to use against one of the men that have wronged her. But then she finds out that her newest customer is a 12-year-old girl named Eliza. And so an kind of unexpected friendship begins, and Eliza's story kind of jeopardizes Nella's world and threatens to expose what she's kind of been doing with this apothecary. And then in present day London, this aspiring historian named Caroline has been like researching things that have been going on, and she comes across one of these vials of the poison, and she can't decide if she like wants to use it, what she wants to do with it, but she then begins to fall into the story and is somehow intertwined with what had happened in 1791 as she becomes more familiar with things. It seems like it's going to be a very kind of complex story with some complex characters, and I feel like this one's one of those stories where you're gonna have to think a little, but I'm definitely excited about it, and it sounds really, really cool. So the last book on my list is The Infinity Quartz by Akemi Don Bowman. And this one just sounds really cool. It's a really new and different story, so I'm really looking forward to this one. It's basically a YA sci-fi fantasy, and it's about this girl named Nami who has just graduated from high school and is on her way to like a senior class party when suddenly she's murdered. And so she wakes up and she finds out that she's in this place called Infinity. And this is where basically human consciousness goes after people die. And then she slowly kind of finds out that Ophelia, who is this AI from Earth that, you know, humans and people were using a lot, has kind of taken over and is posing as queen in Infinity. And so Nami now has to kind of join with rebel groups and take down Ophelia. And it's kind of, it seems like it's going to be a it's going to talk about some really interesting you know, ideas and points just about like humans and kind of what our future could hold, you know, in terms of AI and robots, and just I guess kind of the whole idea of like robots taking over the world and what that would look like. But I think it's really cool seeing just the concept of like, you know, this is what happens when people die, and like how AI is incorporated in that, and like, I don't know, feels very like Black Mirror-y. So I think that's gonna be really fun and cool. And it's also, it has Black and like Asian characters. So another, you know, fantasy series with some hopefully good representation. So I think this one is going to be really fun, and I'm really, really excited to read this one. So that's my list of most anticipated reads for 2021. There's a few more that I'm also looking forward to, but these were kind of the top of the list. And all of these just like either the story or the ideas or the characters or the authors, you know, some part of it is like seems really unique and fun, and so I'm really looking forward to reading these ones. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and see you guys next time.